and welcome to another Mayarts video tutorial. My name's Britta Swiderski, and today I'll be showing you 5 different ways that I love to use the Mayarts silk ribbon. Mayarts silk ribbon is one of my very favorite things that they make, and if you haven't had a chance to try it yet, I think you should really try to find your local store or favorite online store, see if they have these spools in stock. And if not, maybe request that they order it. Also, you can check out more inspiration on the Mayarts blog at mayarts.com/blog. So here's how the ribbon comes on a spool, and this is the 1 1/4 ribbon. They also have 1/4 inch silk ribbon, and I love to use both. On my cards today, I'm going to make them using all the same pattern paper line. This is the out of print line from Basic Gray. It has all these really great patterns. As you can see, I've used this to pieces because I love it so much. But if this line isn't quite your style, you could make a similar card set with any kind of 6x6 paper pad, and you can really change this project up to suit your style. You can still use the ribbon in these ways no matter what your style is. I'm also going to be using Memento Tuxedo Black ink for most of my sentiments. And then I'm going to be distressing the edges of my papers with tea-dye distress ink and a blending tool. And also, I always use my fabric scissors for cutting the ribbon. Especially silk ribbon is particularly delicate, so you want some super sharp scissors that you only use for cutting fabric. If you use these scissors on paper, they'll start to dull and then they won't cut through fabric. So this is only a $10 pair of scissors, but I've had them for several years just because I only use them for fabric, and as you can see, I make sure to remind myself only to use them on fabric. So let's get started on the cards. Okay, so for our first card, I'm going to show you the technique of using ribbon as an accent piece on your sentiment. So you can do this anytime that you really want the pattern paper to show, or you have a longer sentiment like this one. This one is from Hero Arts, and their Truly Appreciated sentiment set. And I'm just going around all the edges of my pattern paper with some tea-dye distress ink, just tapping my blending tool on my pad a couple times and then tapping it on the edges of my paper. And this just helps unify everything and make it look really finished. So I'm going to do this to all my pattern paper. Next, we're going to adhere down our pattern paper piece. And I'm just using my ATG with this, and this is just cut down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and it will fit on the front of the card perfectly with a 1/4 inch border. And now I can prepare my sentiment. I'm just going to take this SK22 1/4 inch ribbon here. As you can see, I've written it down here for your reference, and I'm just going to tie it around my sentiment strip and then make a nice pretty bow. Alright, so I have my little bow put on my sentiment strip here, and now I can just add some foam adhesive to the back and adhere it down to my card. Alright, so I've adhered my sentiment down with some foam adhesive, as you can see here, and I've adjusted my bow. I made sure to keep this area clean of adhesive, that way I could adjust it just to exactly where I want it, and I think there it looks good. So I'm going to take a glue dot, I rolled it up, and I'm just going to stick it underneath the knot, and then I can stick it down on my sentiment strip, and this will just keep it in place, and the adhesive is hidden, but it looks like it just magically stays there. So that turns out pretty well. So there is adding ribbon as an accent on your sentiment strip. And on to card number 2. For our second card, we'll be using silk ribbon as the focal point of our card. So I've taken some pattern paper from the same pattern paper pad, and I'm going to adhere it down to my craft card base. And then next I will tie my ribbon around. I'll adhere my sentiment last because I can always adjust the ribbon once I get it tied around the cardstock. So for this, I've cut off a fairly long piece of ribbon. You want to make sure to give yourself enough room so that you can make a really nice bow and you're not forcing it too much. And then I'm just going to start out by trying to get that good crossover so that it has nice wrinkles. Make one loop and then flip the ribbon around and then bring it through. And then just pull slowly and adjust as you go. So you'll pull a little bit and then pull with the tails and then pull a little bit with the ribbon, pull a little bit more with the tails, and then so on until you get it just how you want it. And then when you're ready, you just pull really tight the loops. And don't worry if it's a little bit loose, if the bow is a little bit slidey on the card. You can always go back and add some adhesive on the back part so that it won't slide around very much. Then we're going to take our scissors and just trim off the tails so that it's a nice slant. And then to secure it, make sure it's really tight on the back. We're going to add some score tape, and I'm going to place my sentiment first just to get a good idea of where I want it. I think I want my sentiment to go right about here, so the bow looks good here. And so I'm just going to pull it extra tight, flip it over, and then add this score tape underneath it. Smooth it out with your finger and then pull up the backing. And then you can just create a little fold in the ribbon to make sure it's nice and tight. Now we can go back and add a piece of neutral cardstock over the inside of this. You could even use a piece of the solid colored paper from the pattern paper pack, and that'll cover up that adhesive nice and cleanly. And now we can just add our thank you sentiment with some foam adhesive across the card. Now we'll trim off the excess, and then we can add some more distressing just to the edges of this sentiment. And this sentiment is from Lawn Fawn, their Sophie Sentiment set, as you can see here. And there's our second finished card. And as you can see here, the ribbon just really shines and you give it a chance to really show it off. So I really love this look. So on to our third card. The next technique I'll be showing you is using the silk ribbon as button thread. So I want to create this awesome button border across my card. What I'm going to do first is stamp my sentiment and take care of my pattern paper piece so that the last thing I do is adhere the buttons to the card, and this will give them a chance to dry and really adhere onto the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this piece of pattern paper down. This is a 5/8 inch strip, by the way, and I'm going to just cut it about 2 inches from the edge. And I can adhere these down. Well, I'll adhere this one. Actually, I'll adhere my smaller piece down first, stamp my sentiment, and then adhere the larger one second. And I'll stamp my sentiment in the Memento black ink. This is from the Many Thanks set from Lawn Fawn. And then I could adhere down my other side of my strip. Now comes the time when I can start adhering my buttons across the bottom of my card. In order for me to create this running button border, I'm just going to adhere them down with some dots of glossy accents first, and then I'll go back through, poke the holes with my paper piercer, and sew through with my ribbon. So I'm just going to drop these across the card, and I'm not doing anything in particular. I'm going to try to make them kind of spaced out so that they're not touching and there's a really open, airy feeling at the bottom of the card. I don't want it to be too much. But you just add tiny little dots of glossy accents to either side of the button, and then put them down on the card and let them sit there for a few minutes just so that the glue sets up and then they're sturdy enough where you can sew through them. So I've had this sitting for just a couple minutes, and now that they're stuck down, I mean not permanently adhered yet, but that's okay, they're definitely set in place, I can go through with my paper piercer. This is from Tim Holtz and Tonic, and I'm just going through on this old mouse pad just for a little bit extra give and punching out all of the holes. And now I have my needle threaded with ribbon, just like I would thread with normal thread. And I'm going to start in this hole right here, go through, and it might take a little bit of extra wiggling to get the end of the needle through, but after you do it for a little bit, it will become a lot easier because the ribbon will get kind of more streamlined behind it. And I'm just going to adhere this down with a little tiny bit of adhesive, and that will keep it in place. And you can always come back and cover this with a scrap of colored cardstock if you wish. And then I'll just go down through and then make an X-like pattern with my button. So you see here it adds this wonderful touch that's a little bit something different than just thread. So I'm just going to go across and continue to do this across all of the buttons. You don't even need to tie the thread after each button, you just keep going across the card. And then when you get to the end, adhere down the extra little tail and you're good to go. So I'll be back in a minute with this all sewn up. Okay, so I've sewn through my cute little buttons with the silk ribbon, and as you can see I just kept going along the back of the card. And if you wanted to leave it like this, honestly I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I'll probably cover it up with a piece of cardstock. And then I think the finishing touch for this card is going to be to round the corners. So I'm going to use my 1/2 inch setting on my corner chomper, and this will just add a nice finishing touch. And then we can move on to card number 4. For this 5th card, we're going to focus on adding some texture with ribbon. So we're going to wrap it several times around this card just to add some cool stripes. And I've decided to contrast this with vertical stripes from the same paper pad, the Out of Print collection from Basic Gray. So I'm just going to adhere this down to my card. And I've already inked the edges with the Tea-Dye Distress ink. And this is a 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square. So it measures up perfectly and goes on the top here. And then we have a perfect space for our sentiment to go down on the bottom. So I'm using this Quinn's ABCs from Lawn Fawn, and I put Hi on the black. And I'm just going to stamp the card with Hi right here on the bottom. And now we can wrap our ribbon around our card. So if you want to be really, if you want to save ribbon, you can trim lengths of the card that are about, or lengths of ribbon that are about 6 inches long. But I want to make it easy on myself, so I'm just going to add 2 lines of adhesive down the back and keep the ribbon continuous. And this will just make it easy to do, and you just wrap around. You're going to want to try to make them straight on the front, and then they'll be kind of diagonal on the back. And I'm going to try to keep them the same width apart as the lines are on the pattern paper, but you can do however far apart you want. And now you can just go back and adjust this so that they're completely even. So I'm going to bring this one up a little bit, and then bring this one up a little bit, and then make sure the space is even. So now that I have that done, I can trim off the excess ribbon, and then to cover up this excess adhesive, I'm just going to add a piece of the cardstock to the inside of the card. And I've chose this nice yellow to add to the inside, and I just cut it 1/4 of an inch smaller than the size of the front of the card. And so a little bit of the ribbon peeks out, but that looks just fine. And I even inked the edges with the tea dye distress ink to make it a little bit more cohesive. And then the front of the card looks great, and so does the inside of the card. So you could add a little bit more accent to the writing if you wish, but I want to keep it nice and simple, so I'm just going to round the front corners again. And so here we have our 4th card, adding some texture with the ribbon. Now on to our 5th. Now for our 5th card, I'm going to use the silk ribbon to add a cute little bow onto a stamped image. So accenting a stamped image with a bow or another use of the ribbon. So I wanted to frame my stamped image by using a piece of pattern paper again. So I have this piece of pattern paper from Basic Gray, and I've just cut it out so that there is a 1/8 of an inch border around the outside. So 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then I use my Tim Holtz ruler, which I love this thing because it's clear, but it still has a metal edge on the side. So I just lined it up 1/2 inch all the way around the cardstock, and then used my X-Acto knife to trim out the middle. So now I have a perfect frame. So I can adhere this down to my card. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my sentiment, which is also from the same stamp set that I stamped this cute fox in. It's Critters in the Forest from Lawn Fawn. And this one says, "Hello, Foxy." And I thought that was pretty cute. And I'm just going to eyeball it and get it right in the middle here. And then I can adhere down my little critter. And since it's Hello Foxy, I want it to be a girl fox. So I'm going to get her centered, press her down, and I might add some accent with a white gel pen, but for now my main accent is going to be a bow. So I'm actually going to tie a bow without it being on the card. So I'm going to make 2 loops with my fingers and then tie those loops together. And then this will let you adjust the bow to exactly how you want it before you put it on your card. And then once you have it how you want it, you can go ahead and trim it down, trim the tails off. And then you can affix it with a glue dot. And once again, you can roll the glue dot so it fits a little bit better because it's not going to be a perfect circle in the middle. And you can adjust the bow even more after you get it on your fox and hold it down with the glue dot because you want her little ears to kind of show. You want it to make sure it still looks like a fox. So I just made the bow a little bit smaller, and now I'm going to trim off the ends again. And there you have it, a perfect bow on your fox. And so now I'm just going to color in her little nose white so it really stands out, and then the tip of her tail as well. And this will add a nice visual triangle with the bow so that she looks nice and decorated. So here is our finished 5th card, where I used silk ribbon to add a wonderful cute little accent to a stamped image. So here is the finished card set using silk ribbon from May Arts to make all sorts of wonderful little cards and use it in all different ways. I think this ribbon is some of their most versatile ribbon and definitely an awesome thing to pick up next time you see it in your local craft store or online. You could even package all of these cards together as one gift set if you wish, because we use the same pattern paper on all of them. So that would make a really great gift set. Partner it with some envelopes and maybe tie another piece of silk ribbon around it and you'd be good to go. A great birthday present or a gift for a friend, maybe a birthday girl, since this one's a little girly. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching my video tutorial today. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a picture of the finished cards together. And I'll have a close-up of each one of them on my blog and on the May Arts blog at mayarts.com/blog. And you can view a full list of supplies at my blog, brittaswiderski.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you again next time on another May Arts video tutorial.